Hi, my name is Marion Royster-Umezurike, and this project is for Criminal Justice 224, Policing Community Relations. It's on police strategies to address complaints of excessive force. Excessive use of force by police officers is something that we all hear about in the news, and is something that's becoming a problem. It's being documented, and more complaints are being made against policemen for excessive violence or excessive force. The Violent Crime Control and Law Enforcement Act of 1994 was enacted by Congress, and it gave the Department of Justice a powerful tool for correcting unconstitutional practices in state and local agencies. The act enabled the Department of Justice to investigate, sue, and come to some type of contractual agreement with police agencies to try to reform the unconstitutional police practice of excessive violence. This is a great tool, but we need more and more strategies implemented in order to stop the excessive police violence. One way to address complaints of excessive police force is through the mediation programs. The programs are specific forms of alternative dispute resolution. They're called ADR, and they try to prevent people from going to court. And is to try to prevent people from going to court. The goal of the mediation is to understand the complaint, to solve the problem, and to come to a resolution. The mediation is done by professional mediators, and they're neutral. They're neutral facilitators, and they have face to face meetings with the complainant and the police officer, and they try to build an understanding between the two parties. The factors that they need to find out the factors that led to the complaint. They address those, and then they come to some type of an agreement that's satisfactory to both parties. The mediation process, it benefits the complainant, the police officer, as well as the community. The complainant, he feels empowered because he has a better understanding of policing. He also has a better understanding of the complaint process and the opportunity to meet their goals. The police gains better understanding of the process because they get to interact with the citizens, and they're able to explain their actions to the citizens, and they may even learn from his or her mistakes. The community benefits because there's an opportunity for conversation and dialogue, which is the goal of community policing. Other recommendations for police strategies to address complaints of excessive force are, the first that I'd like to talk about is the elimination of the stop and frisk policy. This policy has been going on for years, where an officer could just arbitrarily, if he feels that someone looks suspicious, he could arbitrarily just stop and frisk them. Now, this has become a major problem because it was believed to be part of racial profiling. As I said, you could be stopped by a police officer, body frisk, simply because a police officer felt you were looking reasonably suspicious. Once that policy was eliminated, or when it will be eliminated, it will drastically reduce the complaints of excessive force with police, because once they stopped and frisked people, usually that led to some type of altercation and force was involved. Well, if we implement a strategy to hire more female and minority policemen or police persons, that will greatly help to reduce the complaints of excessive force. because the females will be allowed to frisk and search the other females, eliminating complaints of inappropriate touching by male police officers or any type of sexual harassment. And having minorities on the police force, or more minorities, they help to bridge the cultural gap and the language barriers. When there are enough police officers of different nationalities, they can help communicate with the citizens better and avoid any type of misunderstandings that could cause excessive force because of language and cultural barriers. If we also implement body cameras, that will help decrease the excessive force by police because everything will be on camera, and it will make the police less likely to use excessive force for fear of being caught on camera. It also makes the citizen feel safer because the police officer has to be honest when describing the situation, and they cannot say the citizen did something to instigate the use of force. Findings suggest that that there's a 50% reduction in the total number of incidents of use of force compared to control conditions, and nearly 10 times more citizen complaints. The cameras lessen the possibility of excessive force for no reason, and it makes law enforcement more accountable to the community. Although many think that body cameras are a great tool, they help to deter the force by police officers, but we have to be vigilant because sometimes they may be violating the rights of private citizens when they're not in public places. Another thing that helps, with to limit the police excessive force is to create a civilian review board or a civilian complaint review board, and they review the incidents of the excessive police force, and it's one of the newest strategies that's coming into play. In the past, unions and internal affairs had actually did all of the work in reviewing complaints of excessive force. And in order for the review board to function properly, it has to be publicly funded, and we need independent people on there that don't belong to any type of organizations. The members of the review board should be upstanding residents in the community because they will need to have subpoena power in order to review the body camera footage and the official documentation for the complaints. They must be able to stand up to coercion and threats in order to effectively work in this position. Although I have discussed a few of the strategies to address complaints of excessive violence, police officers there's still others that can be put into use. We have to become more involved in community policing in order to obtain the strength that works best in our communities. We need to engage our public officials, and hold them accountable to make sure that excessive use of force by police officers is something that we can eliminate in all communities.